activated. Your weekly football fix kicks off now.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube and TikTok.
LFC Total Red Football Podcast with myself, Kings. Joining me this week, we've got Kev and we've got JK, and we'll be looking back at Liverpool's 4-2 win against Bournemouth on the opening day of the season last Friday. We're also going to be talking about the racial abuse that Semenyo suffered during the game. We will look at the latest story about Marc Guehi maybe joining LFC, and Ben Doak looks like he's off to Bournemouth for a fee of 20 million plus add-ons, so maybe 25 million or so. So stick with us for the whole show if you can, and we'll get cracking. First off, welcome Kev. How are you?
All good, mate. Nice to have 3 points in the bag, and all good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, buzzing after being there Friday. So it's it was nice to get the win finally. It's kind of a bit dodgy at points, but obviously we'll get onto that one. So, JK, how are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has, mate. Happy to be back on and made up the seasons back on, to be honest, mate. Like Kev said, getting 3 points in the opening games, it's the main thing. So off to a good start, and hopefully it continues for the rest. Yeah,
this is it. Busy being a dad instead, JK. It's hard work at times.
Mate, like if I could do overtime like 24 hours, I probably would. Work feels like holiday in comparison.
Right, we'll delve straight into it. The game last Friday against Bournemouth, Liverpool won 4-2. That's the headline score, got 3 points, etc. And we will delve deeper into that game shortly. The first thing I wanted to start, I might as well go straight into it, was Semenyo suffered some racial abuse. I believe, I'm not 100%, I believe from a wheelchair supporter at Anfield. As I said at the top of the show, yes, I was there. We were watching, all of a sudden, Anthony Taylor and the two managers came together on the touchline. From where I was sitting in the cop, I couldn't see what was going on. It was just a case of they were gathering, chatting, whatever. And then we got a message through to say this had happened. So that's how I found out about it. I'm going to start off by saying, I don't care who you are, what club you support, or what walk of life you're in, there is no place for racism at all in football. And what I can't understand is the chances are he was getting racially abused, and yet his own team have players of colour black players playing. And I find it really odd, some people's way of thinking about racism. How can you abuse somebody just because they play for the opposition because of the colour of their skin? It makes no sense in my head whatsoever. And we've obviously seen today, I think it's a 47-year-old man from Liverpool arrested. Obviously, he's been bailed, but has been banned from every stadium in the country while he's on bail. I mean, at the end of the day, if they've already charged him but bailed him for this and put this restriction in place, they know he's, I'm presuming they already know. They've got enough evidence to maybe convict, and it's like he's going to be banned for life from Anfield, Kev. And I think, there's just no place for, there's no need for it, is there?
No, absolutely well deserved. One thing is the communication in the ground when this was started, I'll tell you now, was not acceptable. We were left confused. There was no communication to anyone within the ground as to what was going on. I don't look at my phone while I'm in the ground, so I didn't even look at half time, and there was still an assumption as what went on. Now, all I'll say is how the club and the Premier League have acted as swiftly as they have and have prompted is amazing, and especially in the light today where we see it abroad, where it's a half-hearted attempt by clubs to go, well, we just need to get on with it. I think the way we've dealt with it, and the authorities have dealt with it as swiftly and in the manner that they have, is the best way. It is absolutely appalling that we are still talking about this in 2025. This is more than just football. This is not about gaining points from any team. This is a social problem that we have. And by doing what we did yesterday, what the club have and the authorities done is a way forward. Will it get rid of this? No, because Tell got it a week before because he missed a penalty against PSG. Yeah. We see Saka getting it a few times. We've seen other players getting it when they're playing abroad. So this is a common trait still, and there's no room for it. The saddest thing about it all is that we have to talk about that individual and the fact that we have to bring this up. What makes it even worse is that he's a similar age to me and has got no sense or will. And I don't care what you are, and it's not a game of tit for tat. Because he's disabled does not mean that everyone can have a go at the disabled side of things. It's not a game of tit for tat, because that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the issue at hand. But what does help is that, education. Some people don't need their head hitting against the ground, maybe, but it's sad in a way. But it's just ridiculous. He's got kick racism out on his bloody on his sleeve as well. What in his mind makes you think that gives you a right to say what you do? And we are the most diverse club. You look at the diversity that's in the club, not only through race, but also with religion as well. And it's a shame that it's the way society is at the minute, and the way politically we are as well. And this isn't going to change. But I'm glad in a way. I'm glad how it's been dealt with. And more so, thoughts and prayers for Semenyo, because to continue the way he did and play the way he did, totally deserved his 2 goals. Was Bournemouth's best player, caused us issues all game, which we'll get into, but incredible mentality, and it says a lot about the man rather than one individual who was rightly kicked out straight away. So again, swift actions were good, but the lack of communication within the ground was poor.
Yeah, I completely agree, Kev, to be honest. JK, I mean, not that it's acceptable. I'm never going to try and justify it. With so many cameras and people around you now who find this abhorrent and it's disgusting, with everything around you, knowing that you're going to be instantly in the spotlight nowadays. Can you believe that someone's just shouted this out? It's ridiculous, isn't it?
I think, unfortunately, Kings, no matter how many campaigns you have, how much awareness you have surrounding the issue, which it is an issue, obviously not what it was in the 80s and 90s, but it shouldn't be it at all. There's always going to be a bad apple. There's always going to be one idiot that has to say something stupid, whether it be racial, religious, whatever it may be. I don't think you'd ever want to stop that, unfortunately. There is always going to, there's 50,000 people in a stadium. The chances are there's going to be more than one idiot in there. Fortunately, from what we've seen from the weekend, it looks like it was just one idiot rather than a group of people. And to be honest, I'll pick up where Kev left off. First thing I'd say is huge credit to Semenyo to have that happen to him, to crack on, affect the game the way he did. Basically got Bournemouth back into the game, didn't he? Scored an excellent solo second goal, and he didn't kick up a fuss about it. He just got on with the game and kept his head up, which, so, it goes to say a lot about his character. What a great lad he must be. But the other thing I come back to is Kev saying, I think to sum a person up like this, the lad's got no racism on his shirt and he's shouting whatever it is he shouted.
Yeah.
The other side of it is, if you want to shout that at Semenyo, yet watch Salah score and sing Salah's name.
Well, this is it.
I think that tells you the level of idiot that gets involved in something like that. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to spout abuse at someone and then have someone else with a different creed or colour or whatever it may be, and you're going to celebrate that because it suits your narrative or agenda, I think that says everything about you as a person, mate. You're obviously not very intelligent. It's an idiotic thing to do, and it's idiots behaving as such, in my opinion. like Kev said, it was dealt with quick. He was ejected quick. He's now banned from every ground, which for me should be indefinite. He should never step foot. To be honest, any public gathering, I think concerts, comedy shows, anything of that nature, I don't think he should be able to go to, because he obviously can't control himself and doesn't understand the level of hatred that stuff like this causes. So, like I say, he's an idiot. Better that we don't highlight him anymore, so he's not getting spoken about or nothing like that. I'm just glad with how the club dealt with it. And now he's banned, hopefully for life, as he should be, and anyone else who's getting involved in absolute idiocy doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I can completely agree with the pair of you. Like I said, I don't want to highlight the person. I just highlighted the fact that this is still a problem, in 2025. It is ridiculous. First game of the season, everyone's there, excited for the new season, pay their respects to Jota and Andre Silva, and then this overshadows it again. It seems to be this summer, the parade was overshadowed. Obviously, the celebrations all summer being champions was overshadowed. It's unfortunate with obviously what happened to Diogo Jota. First game of the season, everyone's excited to see the new players. This gets overshadowed. It's just not on. And I just can't understand it. But like I say, we're not going to dwell on it too much, because it only gives airtime to people like that. And it's ridiculous. So I hope they throw the book at him. And like you say, lifetime ban from any sporting event. It's not about football. Any events where you can communicate anything like that needs to be dealt with. And I hope it's severe.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.
On a similar note, we hadn't talked about this off air, but I'm just going to mention, I didn't know whether to bring it up or not. It was just one of those weird situations where I was sitting in the Kop. There was a guy, a couple of seats to the left of me, and it's something I've never really come across before at Anfield or at Wrexham or any other football match, sporting event, concert, anything. He was absolutely fine all the way through until Curtis Jones came on the field. He was singing, he was chatting with his mates and everything. And then I don't know what Curtis Jones has done to upset this one fan, but I've got to say it bluntly, and if he wants to be on the show, he can come and defend himself. He was absolutely vile to Curtis Jones. Every single time he touched the ball, effing and blinding at him. It doesn't matter if he did a brilliant pass, he was still having a go at him. And I would think, I don't know what goes through people's minds in a similar vein to what we've just been talking about. Why single out one player? There was 11 players on that pitch, and if there was a stray ball or something like that, he was great up until he came on. So he's obviously got a personal issue with him. But even that, can you understand it, JK? Just singling out one person, and for the whole time that Curtis Jones was on the pitch till the final whistle, he just got dog's abuse from this guy. And it's like, even that, it's not acceptable, is it really? It's ridiculous.
He must have been getting confused with Sobersley, maybe. No, mate, it's not on. No one should be scapegoated.
Yeah, this is it. We all have a moan. Don't get me wrong. I'll moan at the linesman or the referee or a particular player for missing something. We all do it. That's part of football. But this was continued, a barrage of abuse for the whole time. Whether it was, 20 minutes he was on the field coming on, I don't know. But I just couldn't get my head around why it started. As soon as he came on, that was it. It's bizarre.
Yeah, he clearly must have an agenda against them. And I mean, the other thing is that the lad's playing for your shirt. Like, how's you shouting a loads of abuse at him, whether you rate him as a player or not, or as a person? Yeah. How's that going to help Curtis Jones have a better game? Listening to an imbecile like you shouting whatever type of abuse you're shouting. It doesn't help anyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't even just come down to racism. It just comes down to being a decent person. Just don't abuse people. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, he's there to try and win points for your team and perform for your team. And it is a team effort. So again, even if someone is having a poor game, they shouldn't be singled out like that, because it's a collective effort. So, like I said, mate, unfortunately, there's idiots everywhere. And if there was a way of locking them up, we would. But sadly, they are able to roam free sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, Kev, I will clarify, he didn't say anything racist. I mean, to be fair, if he did, I would have reported him for it, to be honest, because I'm not scared to just turn around and go, hang on a minute, that's not on. He didn't do anything racist, but the abuse in general, like JK said, that's for your own player. against any player is bad, but it was for your own player trying to win the game. And it's
Look.
like, it can see no sense.
Look, I don't like a certain individual who plays left back for us. Yeah. And I've made it clear, but I'm not gonna put what I think out there when I sit in my seat. A few people know, and it's left as that. And if he does anything good, people just say, "Oh, look, the Greek goddess is doing well," right? And it's a bit of a banter between us because we know what's going on. I don't
Yeah.
sit there ridiculing him all through the game. I hope he does well. I hope he proves me wrong. Now, unfortunately, some people can't be like that. It's people get too emotionally involved and feel as though it's that individual playing is the reason why the team is either drawing or getting beat or conceded goals. And he won't be the only one. There'll be others who don't like Harvey Elliott. There's others who don't like certain other players and feel as though, well, I'm in wherever I sit, I have a right and a freedom of my voice to share that with everyone. Not everyone's going to agree with them, but sometimes I've heard people just say, just wind it in. We get it. You don't like him. Just shut up now, because you're doing my head in and you're ruining my game. But the problem is that these people feel as though they have this is their spotlight and their 15 minutes of fame to show people as to how much of an idiot they are. The best thing to do is try and ignore it as much as you can, and hopefully the lad score, because when he does score, what's he going to do? Is he going to sit there and kick off because he didn't hit it in the right way, or he's going to kick? Is he going to stand there and still be annoyed? No, he won't. So I just don't get it. I think we are very reactive. There's certain players that we don't like playing. I get it. There's no need to be vocal about it and let everyone know how much of an idiot, because that's what it comes across like. Do you know what I mean? But no, like myself in my position, I know a few people well enough around me that I've shared that I don't like him. A few people agree with me, but I don't sit there every day and look, see what I told you. I'll shout at the game because that's what I do. I like shouting at the game and shouting man on, because I expect that they can hear me from where I am. I even do it in our house. Do you know what I mean? But we all do that.
I've done that many times, yeah.
Exactly. But that's it. I've noticed a few things when I've watched it. I've tried to understand how he plays the game. I've tried to understand him and give him his due when he has a fair run. I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh, well, I was wrong." I'll say, "Look, I'll be the first one to admit that I've never liked him, and I think we need to move on." Some people think that he's our best left back at the club at the minute because of the way Kirkes has played after one game. So it's it's very subjective football, and people get too reactive with things and go down rabbit holes with certain individuals like I've done. But I try and keep it to myself personally, but it doesn't have coming on here and being reminded of it every time. So
well, like I said, I'm sorry to come on and almost start the show kind of really down because of the two different incidents. And
like and subscribe to the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on YouTube.
Right, I'm going to talk about the game. Now, apart from the last bit of the game, which we will get to, I can't say that the feeling is going to be much more upbeat because it wasn't brilliant. But we will have a look at it. First off, JK, the new players that started obviously was Ekatike, there was Frimpong, Wirtz, and I forgot his name. No, the right back. Left back, sorry, left back, Kirkes. I do apologise. How did you think they played in that, like, say, the first half? In the game, did you think they were okay, or did you think there was issues to look at?
I think Frimpong was very good until he come off. I love the fact we've got a right back who will run back rather than just do a little casual stroll and WhatsApp Jude in the middle of getting back. I think Ekatike looked very sharp as he did in the Community Shield, and I thought we looked a bit bland without him in the Community Shield when he came off. I'm really excited about Eki. I think he's hit the ground running, and I think that'll just
Yeah.
continue. I don't think it's any coincidence what you're seeing. His touches, his link up, just his general intelligence, mate. You can see it's there. The one I was disappointed with was Kejas. I think he was very, very rash. I don't know about you lads, but when we were young, we were taught don't dive into tackles unless you have to. For me, it's seen the opposite with Kejas, that you dive in and stay on your feet if you can. I mean, you look like a red card waiting to happen, and it's not even if you don't connect in them challenges when you're being rash. You're taking yourself out the game if you don't win the ball, and he's done it on about 4 or 5 occasions at least. So that worried me a little bit. Wirtz, I don't think had a bad game. I don't think he had a great game. I think he's finding the pace of the Premier League, and he's got to get used to the physicality of it, because what might win you a free kick in Germany might not win you a free kick in England, and it's just little nuances like that he'll have to get used to. And I mean, we have got four lads in the starting lineup that are new. It's effectively half of a new team. There was moments in that game where it was clicking, and you could see how frightening we're going to be when it does click properly. It was our first game of the season. Bournemouth are no pushovers. They're a very, very good side. I think Irawella, however you want to pronounce his name, I think he's a top manager. And testament to them, to be honest, he lost 3 of the back 4, and you wouldn't really notice that on Friday. I thought Bournemouth were brilliant. They're a team that I thought you might have to watch them this season. They could be in trouble purely because of all the personnel that they've lost. But after watching Friday, I wouldn't say they've got a thing to worry about. Thought they were brilliant. And then thank God for Fede getting his cop moment, because whatever happens with Fede now, whether that be he stays, he goes, I'm just absolutely made up that he got a last minute winner in front of the cop. And you could see how much it meant to him. He looked surprised himself. He was like pointing at himself as if to say, it was me, I've done it. And that was honestly one of my favourite moments. And even with everything we've won and stuff like that over the last few years, I was buzzing to see that from him. I was really, really happy. So at the end of the day, we got the 3 points. That was the main thing. I think at times we looked electric. Other times you can see that it's going to be a bit of a work in progress, but nothing to worry about whatsoever.
Okay, I'm just going to go all the way back to Kirkes. And do you think he was just, I don't know, trying to prove to Bournemouth that, like he just left them. It's his first, full game against. So he's kind of like, this is where I am now. I'm at this top side. I'm going to show you how good I am. Now I've left. Or is that his game and we've got to get used to it? He could get sent off every other game. It's like, what kind of mindset do you think he had playing against his former side in the first game?
I think it was a bit of both. I think he was probably trying to throw himself about to say, like, this is where I am. And look, it was his first home game at Anfield. Bear in mind, he wants to set an impression to the fans that he's physical and stuff. But the lad from Redmen, is it Josh Williams?
I'm not sure.
Can't think of his name. There's a lad anyway who does stats for Redmen or something. And I watched him a couple of months ago, and he said the only thing I'd say about Kirkes is, he said he's very rash, diving into tackles. And just off that one game, you could see that he was spot on. So I do think that's part of his game.
Right.
Maybe with it being against his former club in his home debut, it was a little bit more and exaggerated. But I do think diving in is a part of his game, just that he might have done it a little bit more with it being the opposition that it was and with it being his first home game. But there's definitely something that needs to be said to him in terms of in training to say, look, you cannot be diving into tackles like that 4 or 5 times a game, because the risks are just too high. Even if you don't get sent off, like I said, you effectively take yourself out the game when you slide into someone and don't win the ball, which is not good for anyone else trying to cover for you.
Yeah, this is it. Now, before I come to you, Kev, I got this message from Neil at Bleeding Red. Tough game for Kirkes against his old team. Difficult to judge. Had Semenyo to deal with, who was very good. Do you agree with what JK and Neil are saying about Kirkes before we talk about the rest of the players? What was your thoughts on his game? I
thought in every game he's played for us, he's looked the most tentative out of our left back and right back. Frimpong's come in and has set the ground running. Kirkes has been very tentative in his approach. It reminded me a bit of Timicus in the way he was with Semenyo, because he was all up for the physicality of it, but wasn't doing it with any kind of brain as to where he needed to be. So there was times where Semenyo was just leaving him for an echo, sending him for an echo every time, because he's that quick. And when someone's that quick, there's two things you either do. You either go really tight, or you step away and take about 1 yard or 2 yards off them, give them the space, and then try again. The problem you've got is that when he's going in and gives away, concedes a free kick, which I could see from where I was straight away, he was going to concede that. As soon as he got that yellow card, that nullified him in all of the game then. And I was just expecting, like, you're going to be either taken off at half time, or you're going to be replaced around the an hour mark, depending how things go. That's the problem he's got. He's got to learn to, as JK quite rightly said, he's got to learn how to stay on his feet. He's got to be able to position himself better. What I did notice, though, is that Virgil isn't scared to play the ball down the left-hand side, so like he is do when Costas is there. So that's going in the right way. I just don't think he got forward a few times. It'd be nice to see a few more crosses coming into the box a little bit earlier, maybe. Who knows what if that won't? But he has. I think he has struggled a little bit, and I do think that it's going to take him probably a little bit of time. He's got to realize he's got to play 10 out of 10. He's got to be consistent on a regular basis, and not just one-off games. So I think there's a bit of that going on. A new system he's probably getting used to. So I understand all that, but he's got to learn to stay on his feet, because if you won't be able to, you just basically ruin yourself if that's the case, because you won't be here long if you keep diving in the way he is.
What about the other 3 new players? How did you feel they fared?
Vert for me is, I agree with JK. You look at Bournemouth and how physical they were, and how the physical game and the dark side of the game, which was a little bit annoying at the start of the game with Bournemouth. You've seen it kind of phased them a little bit in that sense. I agree with Jay. It wasn't a bad game. It wasn't a poor performance by any part of the imagination. But I do think the physicality and the pace of it now, it's not like pre-season where it's going to be even worse against Newcastle next week. So he's got to learn to be able to deal with this. I thought so, but again, you can see moments. I can still see him trying to create movements, creating space for himself, and he'd done that a few times. Linked up a few very well with, down the left hand side with Chiesa, and also with Salah. So that I'm not that too bothered about Vert. I think that will eventually come. I think it's just learning to adapt from the German game to the English, which is always going to be a difficult thing. I thought Hugo Ekitike showed what Darwin Núñez should have done when we played against Palace and he got the red card, because the physicality that Ekitike got on Friday, he would have been sent off if that would have been Núñez, because it's, for me, it's hold up play, the way he runs with the ball, the movement you get from him. He's not scared to continue to make that move every time down the channels, looking to link up with play, coming in deep, also getting back and helping out defensively, and being the first to move forward as well. There's a lot of his game that I absolutely love at the minute. I love how he puts himself out to the left hand side, and his finish is so calm, and I don't think there'll be many in our team that would be able to finish as calmly as what he did, because he's just ice cold. Because it was like Henry, like in a sense. There was a bit of a Suarez in the fact that it was coming off everyone. It was bobbling. It was coming off knees, elbows, whatever. He still gets through and then finishes with the elegance of an Henry finish. It's quality. It's great to see. Frimpong, I love the overlapping he's doing. I love the fact that he underlaps as well at times, which also confuses the back four in a sense that, well, who do we go with? Do we go with Salah? Do we go with, don't get me wrong, Salah didn't get into the game that much, but Frimpong was automatically going, and as Jay said, to have a defender that gets back and likes to run back as well as running forward, it kind of helps you out. And then, so out of them all, the only one I'm more concerned about is Kirkers, because he has to be a little bit better than what he was on, from what I've seen of him so far. That includes the Charity Shield. And it may just be a confidence thing. It may just be, he's a young player as well, so I get all that. But again, I think overall, I wasn't too surprised to see Verts getting taken off when he did. I think again we lost our shape again when Keita went off. It's as though we need another striker. We need something up there, because when he goes off, we just lose everything, and it just deflates everything that we've already done. So that for me is a concern, and why we probably are looking for another striker and a winger. But no, all good with the new players. There's room for improvement with all of them. And that said, it's they started with a win, so we move forward.
The LFC Total Red Football Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts from. Also available on your smart speaker, or you can watch us on YouTube.
JK, right. Liverpool went 2-0 up. Ekitike, Cody Gakpo, cruising a little bit at that point. Did you think, we're at Anfield, first game of the season, some good talent on show, do you think we were done at that point before Bournemouth turned it around? I know you said earlier they're a good side, and but did you think 2-0 up at Anfield, we're all right here, we're okay?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very rare that the teams tend to score 2 or more at Anfield anyway, regardless of who you are, whether you're Bournemouth, City, Arsenal, United, whoever. Scoring 2 at Anfield isn't really an easy feat for anyone. So yeah, mate, when we were 2-0 up and the new boys looked like the Far and Eki particularly, and Frimpong, you think, it's going to be a rout this, like, what a great opening day. And then obviously Bournemouth and Semenyo had something to say about that. But we were shaky at the back, Kings, and to be honest, mate, I know we'll probably get into the Guehi links, but I think Kanate's been off it for a good while. A very good while. I don't think he's at it, and whether that's because his head's turned or maybe a bit of arrogance by how easy we found the league at times last season, because we had such a big gap for such a long period of time. Whether that's made him a bit casual, complacent, I don't know. But there's something not quite right at the back. I'm not going to start throwing it out like I'm worried. It's first game of the season, but the Palace game and the Bournemouth game, there was too many defensive similarities that weren't up to scratch to the standard we had, and I was a little bit worried by Slot at the end of it, because Carragher asked him about it and he said, well, this is us, this is the way we play, and it wasn't. Last year it wasn't. We control games, we didn't go gung-ho, and it reminded me of Postecoglou a bit, like when they say, well, you can see them loads of goals because you play this, when you go, mate, it's the way we play. And it's like, well, I know, but you're losing because of that. You can't.
But just remind me again, where was Postecoglou from?
Australia, mate. But yeah, I think Leone coming in is great, but with him being 18, I wanted to get Guehi because I just feel like Kanate's, whether his head's turned, I don't know, or whether he's not going to sign a deal, I don't know what it is, but personally, I feel like Abou's been off it for quite a while, and Friday I felt like that was there again. Defensively, we didn't look great, and I think Abou was a big part of that, as well as Kirkes with his recklessness.
Kev, I'm going to pick out Semenyo's second goal, funny enough. Obviously, watching from the cop, he took it from one end of the pitch, and genuinely, from my view, I was just watching him. We kind of like, is somebody going to do something here? And he just carried on and carried on. It was like, yes, somebody please do something. And he carried on and carried on. It was like, no, really, somebody do something. And then he scores. And it was like, it's almost like they just stood there and, kind of thing, and watched him score. It was ridiculous the way he ran straight through the team. And as JK said, that's a concern if that's the kind of way Slot's going to set up and be like, yeah, but we got good top end, with star strikers and creation and everything. But if the midfield and defense are going to be vulnerable like this, you can't win the league on games like that, can you?
It's very risky if you do. I think missing Gravenberch the way we have, I'm hoping that if that was to play again and Grav is there, he takes a yellow for that, or or puts a tackle in. The problem you got with Canate is Canate actually thinks because he's playing next to Virgil, I'm God. I can do whatever I want here. And when Virgil played against Tottenham and showed how to a masterclass how to deal with the 2-1 version, and they end up skying it. For some reason, Canate thought, do you know what? I can do that. I'll just I'll just bring them. But at no point did I feel confident. I wasn't confident in Canate's performance from the 3rd minute when he's hitting balls with his wrong foot. He's kicking balls out for the corner, which could have went into the net. He's very up and down at the minute, and I agree with what Jake said. He's been off it for a while. Take nothing away from Semenyo, because Semenyo played it well. Although people say you're just being ball greedy, as soon as he got past the halfway line, I thought this is going to be 2-2 here, because I know he can finish, and he took his and credit to him, he scored and took it well. Canate didn't, and Virgil didn't do them in any way, in any kind of that. I think Virgil hasn't played his best in the last 2 games we played, and then you add in Canate alongside that, and the performance shows why we are conceding goals. And I don't think positionally, I don't think Virgil was in the right place. I also think Canate thought I can do what Virgil does. Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on. There was a lack of communication. Alisson's even saying after the goal, did anyone think about making a challenge or doing something like, do you know what I mean? Because
this is it.
I can't save it all the time. So there is frailties there. I think our game management is shocking at the minute. Even at 2-0 up, it didn't feel confident that we weren't gonna concede. And if we did concede as early as when we did, you're kind of hoping that we need a third. As soon as we scored, as soon as they scored, I said to myself, we need another here, because that's the way we are at the minute. And whether it's the high line, whether it's not, whether we're playing too risky, again, allegedly we are working on it. God knows what, because it must be FIFA that they're doing it on. Because the last 2 games I've seen nothing but I'm all for spatial awareness, but not as much as what we're given other teams at the minute. It's just it's ridiculous. It's crying out. And the worst thing about it is, we're playing like as though we're in a schoolyard. So 8 of them are in the box, and half of them are going, blow down, I'm not getting back here. And they just trapped out, and it's 4 against 2, and it doesn't set the right mentality. I don't know. I'm not saying the mentality is low, but I just think that there's more to this than meets the eye. Slobberslide doesn't give himself in the doing the stupid flick when you're 2-0 up. I totally and utterly would be ridiculing him. There's a time and a place for that. Not at that when you're 2-0 up. Game management. And this is what I'm talking about. Game management. Instead of doing your little flicks, how about you just play the right ball? That's all you've got to do. If it means it goes back to Canate or Virgil or to Frimpong or Endo or Gomez, and that was the good thing. Why bring Endo on instead of Gomez at right back when you know that the pace is where it was on the right hand side, and where the first goal comes down that side because we haven't got anyone good enough to deal with it, and the second goal comes down the middle, and you're just thinking, well, surely to God, I know he's only had 2 probably training sessions, but I'd rather have Gomez there because he's more defensive minded, and there's a bit of pace about him as well, and a bit of physicality.
I'll be honest with you, Kev, right? I thought exactly the same. He came on. I thought, why bring him on if you got Gomez there? Because I really like Endo. He can play in midfield. He's actually played centre back. But I thought, and then they concede from that, like you said, from that side. And I thought it was stupid. I know Slot's come out since and said he didn't think Gomez was fit enough to play 20, 25 minutes or whatever it was. It's like, well, why was he even on the bench? And if you just, I know you want to introduce him a little bit, maybe to get a bit of match fitness. But if you didn't trust him for 20 minutes or so, it's like, well, that says a lot to me because it didn't work bringing Endo on where he played to start with. It was terrible.
No, it was, again, it's just, again, I'll go back to it. What worked well last year was, our substitutions. I think it worked with the last lot of substitutions that we made.
Yeah.
The first couple were just, I was miffed and we lost everything. With the changes that we made, we bring Keita on. There wasn't much on the bench anyway, so unless you're 3-4-0 up with those players. But on the flip side of that, although it's I don't see it as a Liverpool performance, we scored 4.
Yeah.
And
we're talking here like we've lost 4-0 or something.
But you look at this team. This team's constantly scoring over 2 goals a game.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you think that playing the way we are, it won't be like a Newcastle in 95, 96. This team's got something about it that will keep creating. And as Bournemouth must have thought, oh, we're getting a point here. No, you're not. You're going to lose, and you're going to lose by another 2 goals. It's mad how bad the performance can be at times and in parts of the game. But this team still finds a way and manages to score over 2 goals a game, and that's difficult for other teams who are going to be fighting for the league to be able to do consistently as well as what we do.
Yeah. You're listening to the LFC Total Red Football Podcast.
Now, I am going to talk about the ending because that was fantastic. But another message from Bleeding Red. How do we stop the midfield getting bullied against Newcastle then? Obviously, does it mean bringing Gravenberch back in, if he's ready to come? What if he's not? What are we going to do then? JK, I'll come to you first.
He was suspended, wasn't he? So I don't think fitness should be an issue for him playing. But for me, Gravenberch's our only actual 6, isn't he? So if he's fit, I mean, other than Enzo, but... I mean, to be fair, actually, this game probably suits Enzo to the T. We need a bit of a dog in there. The only real way you can play against Newcastle is if you can match them physically, which we can't. The only other way you can do it is to play how PSG play. And you basically play through that press in the midfield because it's so tenacious. But it's got to be like one touch stuff. And it's almost got to be perfect. I said a couple of days ago to the lads in the chat that midfield bothers me, regardless of the Isak situation, which, by the way, is only going to make this cauldron 10 times hotter. And it might sound controversial, but I don't know if I'd start Vert. And I know loads of people are going to think that's fucking mental because of the price of them and stuff like that. You'd be hard pressed to find a more physical game than what you're going to get on Monday against Newcastle in that midfield, and I think it could be a culture shock to someone like Vert. Now he will start, in my opinion. You don't pay 100 million for a player to come in, and it's not as if you can protect him from every physical game or anything like that. And he wouldn't want that. And the crazy thing is, where I've said, I think the only way you can combat that's by playing like PSG. That's the type of player you need to be able to do that. Who's going to draw in a Joe Linton and take him out the game by a little piece of skill or a one-touch pass, which is that's what Vert is about. He draws you in. Sometimes you think he's letting the defender get too close to him, but he's drawing you in deliberately to get past you. So the only way we can get through that midfield, to be honest, mate, is to be at our best, and we are away to Newcastle. I think if you're at home or away, Newcastle's a really, really difficult game now. I really rate Eddie Howe as a manager. I think he's brilliant. I think that midfield 3 is arguably as good as any in the Premier League, to be honest. I think the one saving grace for you playing against that midfield is there's nothing up top, really. Alanga doesn't scare me. Andy Gordon doesn't. I mean, I shouldn't fucking say this now. I'll probably jinx it, both of them. But the front line doesn't scare me, and I think that's why they didn't win against Villa on the weekend. I think had they had Isak or even just a competent striker, they probably win that game.
Yeah.
So I think luckily for us, we've got a better front line. But the one thing I can say is none of them lads are going to go into that game stupid thinking that they're not going to be up for a physical fight. So they're going to be fully aware what's happening, especially with this Isak stuff. This Isak stuff's going to make it obviously reach boiling point and probably beyond. So the first 10 or 15 minutes is going to be ridiculous in terms of atmosphere. And when you always hear people say about you've got to get through the first 10, 15 minutes at Anfield, I actually think it's going to be a bit like that at St. James's next Monday. So yeah, it's just about maybe quieting the crowd down by just not giving them much joy. Try and take the physical side out of it as much as you can by keeping control, possession, slow the game down, and then take it from there because you grow into the game then as you've got control of it and take it from there. But yeah, it's going to be... I wish it went the second game of the season with all this going on. I can't lie.
Kev, are you hopeful that the midfield doesn't get bullied against Newcastle?
To be honest, I kind of, it's mad of me. Like, you know, I'm quite looking forward to it. I'm made up and going, to be honest, for the start. So I'll be there anyway with me Isak top on. But it's going to be it is going to be a cold one. But I think Liverpool will treat this as not like a Premier League game, but try and treat it as a European away, and just try and treat it in that sense. Try and stem, as Jay said, you know, those three are just going to be a bulldozing, and I expect Joe Linton to be carded within the first 2 minutes of the game. To be honest, it's all crying out for that, or it's an early booking. Do you know what I mean? He may be already on the bookings already with his betting on his betting account. So you know, it's. But I just think if we utilize the width and utilize the pace we've got in the team that we have on the width, I think we can control this game. It's a game I wouldn't be aggressively playing the high line like we have been doing. This is a game where we need to be on it, trying and staying compact, trying and manage the game like we did like we did in last season. Not necessarily up at St. James's Park because we drew 3-3, but try and compact it in a way that when we have won games, manage the game better, play. You know, luckily Grav will be back. He'll be up for a good little fight. You got an Argentinian that won't be scared to get his foot in either, in McAllister. But then you also got the tenacity, the creativeness up front that I just think is the separate of both teams. And I don't rate Nick Pope as a goalkeeper myself personally. I think, you know, I think he is vulnerable. So I do expect goals. I expect us to come away with the win, and I expect Hector Keith to score the winner, just to ram it down the barcode's throats again, because you know, player that decided to get twice.
You really like to endear yourself to the Newcastle faithful, don't you?
I'm not really bothered. Do you know what I mean? For me, you know, it's all great. I think the only time you go to Newcastle is for the stag do or for the footy.
Yeah.
You don't go there for a holiday. You don't go there to finish your career with. So money can't buy your geography, as I keep saying. And hopefully, you know, we come away with 3 points. If not, we come away with a point. A point's good. Whether or not people will believe it, people will think, but if we come out of that with a point, even better still if we come out with 3 points, then there's, you know, we are expecting a cauldron, but I expect us to deal with that. We're professional enough to deal with it, and I expect us to put a better performance in. If we play like we did against Bournemouth, there will be a few nervy moments, but if we can sort that out and stem the defensive side, be a little bit more compact, keep the lines kind of closer together, and try and just play our way through and give the ball to certain individuals and certain points, try and cause a few issues. I think we have enough about us. I didn't see enough on Saturday at Villa that would actually scare me, apart from their aggressive press. But I think if you can get through that press with the 1 or 2 touch football, is what Jake said, I think that plays into our hands superbly.
Backtracking, actually, if we play cute and clever, I actually think we can draw them into a lot of being brawn, committing stupid fouls and stuff like that. If we just play cute and properly the way we should be, technically, like with technical ability, like PSG type play, I'm sort of backtracking on what I said before. I actually think it could play no, I do think it could play into our hands in that way.
No,
more football and intelligent rather than just brawn.
Yeah,
exactly. But there is part of me that thinks that a few of their players will get emotionally involved.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah, brawn over brain.
Yeah, and it'll show itself. Don't get me wrong. There's been great games down the years with Newcastle, home and away. But I just think this plays. I think with this is what Sky wanted. This is or TNT, whatever thing. It plays into their hands. They've got the drama that they've wanted. Do you know what I mean? And it's just going to be fueled up even more during the week because that's what they want. You know what I mean? It was like when we went to Leeds when us and United and Chelsea were breaking away. What was the first thing? Our Sky was all over it. You know what I mean? And it doesn't help. Look, it's an emotional game. It will be emotional. I think we have enough about us mentally wise and professionally wise to get through that game and come out with 3 points.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.
Well, before we talk about Marc Guehi and Ben Doak going to Bournemouth, I will quickly, as soon as I say that word, I know it's a challenge to Kev to see how long he can keep talking, probably. Can we quickly round up the last bit of the game? So there was Chiesa come on. Now, to be fair, I think he's a bit of a cult hero. I don't know, that guy always is smiling. He doesn't seem to be miserable. He's not getting any game time, and yet he's still smiling. You know, and I was so chuffed that he came on the field. As we said at the beginning, everybody has their favorite kind of players. He's not necessarily my favorite player, but I don't know, he just brings a bit of happiness, I think, when he comes on, and he's kind of like, I want to show what I can do if I get the chance. He comes on and he scores. It's like, JK, we said at the beginning, scoring in front of the Kop, he's got that memory now. I sincerely hope if the rumours about Harvey Elliott maybe going to RB Leipzig or elsewhere come to fruition, you can't possibly get rid of Chiesa as well, because you can't get rid of your whole front line. So to me, I would be then thinking to myself, well, if he's looking to get rid of Elliott, he's going to keep Chiesa. He didn't necessarily buy him. He was brought in last summer, but just give the guy a chance. I genuinely think still, even after his injury problems, there is a hell of a player in there. What do you think?
Look, a few years ago, before his injury and that, I was always saying Chiesa was like a dream target. He was an unbelievable player, £100 million player easily, but what I'd say is if he is going to stay, I don't want him to have the same role as last season. It's pointless. It's great having him around the changing room and stuff like that, but I'd rather have a body who's going to play. So if he's going to be part of your squads, which we're quite bare now, I completely agree with you. If Elliott goes and obviously you do decide to sell Chiesa, then that needs addressing, that needs replacing, because albeit he had a bit part role, he is still a member of that 25-man squad. So if he does go, he does need replacing. But I don't think there's any point keeping him around as much as I love the song, but just for a song. Do you know what I mean? And I love the lad. I want him to be able to have a career. I want to see him be able to get back. And Kings, if it was my way, mate, I'd love him to stay here and reach them levels. Or even if he got close to them levels, he'd still be an exceptional player because he was that good. but I don't see the point in keeping him to have the same role as last season.
No,
Because
that's
it's
fair.
basically a youth player's minutes, if that. One thing I will say is whatever happens now, if he does go, I'm just absolutely buzzing that he got that moment in front of the cop, because yeah, it was great and he deserved it. He looks like a really good lad, dead happy. All the lads, you could see how happy they were for him. They were buzzing when he scored. He didn't look like he could believe in himself. So I'd love him to stay in at the levels that we know he can hit. But do I think it's realistic? Probably not.
Okay. Kev, 2 goals in 2 games for him. Like we've just said, he was absolutely buzzing to score in front of the cop. You could see, again, he's running straight to where I was sitting, funny enough. It was just the smile on his face said it all. And I was so made up for him. And I think if you just give him a chance, Liverpool could have, I know they got Wirtz now and they've paid a lot of money for him, but they could have another player who actually is a little bit different. He's not necessarily a striker or a creator. He's a bit of everything, I think, maybe in that front part of the pitch. So we've talked about him potentially leaving, but at this point, would you keep him? Because we are a bit bad as well.
Answer me this: when we were making the change, how many of us wanted Rio to come on instead of Chiesa? Because I know there was a few around by me who were already at conflict as to why we bringing him on instead of Rio. Look, I totally agree with what Jake said. I'm not going to go around the houses. He's had his moments. If he's going to be a bit par player, then we move him on and we get someone in who can be consistent for us. There's no point keeping the player just for either the song or for a little moment like that. I made up. He had one of the best slides I've seen. It was just unbelievable. I thought he was still going now, but it was class. So he's had this moment. How he took that goal, people say it's a fluke. No, he meant to hit it the way he did, and he had to hit it the way he did. And sadly, it's not the player that we thought was we could get out of him. That may come down to the physicality and how the pace of the Premier League. But no, if Arne Slot is going to play him like he did last season, we move him on.
Okay. Just finally, obviously, Salah scored the 4th goal to seal the points. So, it ended up being a good win in the end. If you look at it just on black and white piece of paper, that it is 4-2. Everyone's like, it's a convincing win. It wasn't quite like that in the game itself, as we've discussed. But just finally to get over the line, Salah, obviously, was noted at the very end. He was the last player off. Very emotional at the end because this was the first game at Anfield in the Premier League, since the passing of Diogo Jota. I hope the players, in a way, let that kind of come off their shoulders, bearing that it's always going to sit somewhere that this has happened. And you can tell he was very emotional coming to the end of the game. And I just hope now that they've kind of like crossed that line of, right, this is the first game. We've got past that now. And you're never, ever going to forget. And I'm not trying to say that, but you have to put it to one side and we have to continue. So I'm just glad he got a goal as well. It's like starting off for the season. We all know he's a fantastic goal scorer for Liverpool. So just rounding it up, it's a 4-2 win. Overall, we went out of there happy. Well, I certainly did because I never get to go to Anfield normally. So I was like, well, I come out of there happy. So it's just, before we go to Newcastle next week, it's just a case of, right, get yourselves reorganised now, isn't it, JK? And say, right, we got the points in the bag. Let's move on to the next one and do everything we can to continue that vein of winning.
100%, mate. At the end of the season, you don't look back on how you got your points. You look back on how many points you've got. That's why that other idiot at Arsenal saying we've had the most points over 3 years. Well, you've got fuck all to show for it, mate. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it doesn't matter how you win, mate. All that matters in the end is winning and making sure at the end of 38 games you've got more of them than you don't. First game of the season, it's all about getting 3 points. That's what we done. And we managed to get 4 goals and a boss little last-minute winner, which is the best way to win a football match, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll move on. We have talked a lot more on that game than I thought we were going to talk, but absolutely fine. That's what the show's all about. It's talking about LFC and whatever comes from them conversations is great. The story with Marc Guehi potentially joining Liverpool came out last week. Steve Parish said, he'd rather him go. We did talk about it on last week's show, actually, didn't we, Kev? So, he'd rather let him go now than get nothing for him next year. Now, there was murmurings that, Liverpool were interested in this week. They were going to sort it out and everything. It hasn't come to fruition yet. But, Kev, we've talked already about the defensive frailties, and we mentioned this on last week's show. Do we need to put in a bid for him and get it over the line before the transfer window shuts?
I'd like him in before the Newcastle game, and I would be tempted to play him against Newcastle. I think it would leave us. I think we'd have a stronger back line if he plays, and I'd be tempted possibly to go either three at the back and play Konate, Guehi, and Virgil. Probably a little bit rash me saying that, but either that or playing Guehi alongside Virgil and see how that goes. I would like it to be done. I believe there's a 10 million disparity between or somewhat Parish wants. I think as close as the window comes, that's going to come down because he started the window wanting 50 to 60 for him for a player with only 12 months left. It's now down to 40s. So there's another week, it'll be down to 30s. So it makes common sense to wait till then. However, I would be tempted to try and meet them halfway and do 35 with 5 million accessible. So you make it around 40. That's what I'd be doing. I'd like him to come in. I think he could do a great job for us against Newcastle. And I think it'll give us a bit of an upgrade where on how the season started by bringing a defensive player in who is very good and has got the passing technique as well. That's another reason why I'd play him as well instead of Konate.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.
We spoke last week about the other defender from Italy, Giovanni Leoni, I think his name is, the young lad. And we mentioned now, so if we could get both, that would be cracking. And to be fair, they've already been in, boxed that deal off. And Leoni, as a younger player, is already at LFC now. So, JK, if we could get part 2 done over the line, I think, defensively then, I don't know how much Leoni's necessarily going to play this time. He's got to integrate into like the reserves and whatever first. But if we get Guehi in as well, would you do the same as Kev? Would you play him against Newcastle after the efforts of Konate?
Potentially, yeah, because it gives Ibu that kick up his arse that he needs. I think a lot of the problem where I've said I think Konate's dropped off is because he's probably looking over his shoulder and thinking, who's going to play over me? Because there isn't no one. Every time Kwanzaa came in, he made a mistake and it was quite clear Slot didn't fancy him. He put Gomez in at Kwanzaa and he rushed Ibu back from injury. So I think it gives Ibu a kick up the arse that he needs to show, look, we can drop you and we'll drop you. Whether it happens that quick, I don't know. But I can completely understand where Kev's coming from. I don't think I'd switch to a 3 at the back just purely because I think it'd be too much change for such a big game. But other than that, I see no reason why if he did come in, he's fit, he's match fit, he's played. He was brilliant against us, I thought, by the way, in the Community Shield. I thought he had a very good game. So, I wouldn't be against him playing whatsoever if we got him in time. Purely just to give Ibu the kick up the arse that he needs and to use a bit of that depth, because then it's going to make Ibu pull his finger out, and if he wants that starting berth, then go and fight for it and show everyone that you actually want it.
Right. So that would be the defence covered. We've covered pretty much the whole. Who else was there outstanding? I think that Liverpool said they were interested. Maybe another winger.
And Isak. A winger that you said, haven't they?
Because obviously there's a lot of speculation that if Isak comes in, that Ekitike might go out, end up fighting with Gakpo on the wing, which, to be honest, I wouldn't want. From what I've seen of him so far, I'd like him to. But I just feel that if we get another defender in, that they're going to be there or thereabouts. Like we say, when Gravenberch comes back, hopefully we'll be a lot tighter then, and we can see the team moving forward and getting back, getting the results, but maybe in a better way than what we have so far. The final thing I was going to talk about, guys, was Ben Doak. Actually, he was left out of the squad against Bournemouth last week. It's now come out, obviously, that he's in negotiations with Bournemouth. Maybe almost a done deal at a £20 million fee plus 5 million add-ons, apparently. Good for both sides, Kev, do you think, this?
Yeah. I think if Rio hadn't come through and burst on the scene and being as good as what he has, then I think Ben Doak will probably still be around here. However, I think he's been on loan. He's set the world alight to butter last season. He showed he's very good. I think Bournemouth is a good step up for him. I think it'll bode well. I think it's, again, although he's gone, we have a buyback clause if he does do well. So, no, credit to him. I just hope we get to see him in the Premier League, see what he can do. And if there's a player there at the end, then we can move on with that. But no, I'm good luck to the player. I hope he gets a few minutes playing for them, and he'll be an exciting player for Bournemouth. I think to have him and Semenyo playing in the same team. Oh my God, lad, that's just going to be ridiculous. But that's something that Bournemouth will have. Do you know what I mean? Because both of them will be exciting. Do you know what I mean? So to have those kind of players, they have pace. They have that Brooks who was down on the left hand side. I see Ben Doak doing just as well there. Do you know what I mean? And then Semenyo as well. Honestly, quality player. Good luck to him.
JK, the price of like 25 million. We've already seen with Kwanzaa go in and potentially Elliott and a few others. Myself, Kev, and Neil have talked about this previously on shows that not all the youngsters are going to make it. So if you can sell 3 or 4 players in a summer and make over £100 million potentially, that is some way of, like Liverpool, the way they balance the books. And what is it so far from player sales so far? If this goes through like it should, it's going to be about 200 million player sales. And then people go on about this net spend, etc. And I don't want to get into any of that, but it's like it's a lot of money coming in when they spend a lot of money out. But Liverpool just seem to have the knack of getting good prices for players, don't they?
I was one of Richard Hughes' biggest critics last season. I probably need to delete a few tweets. A few messages to you boys. But the only thing I can say that's testament to him is Dean Ocean's just gone to Real Madrid, Zabani's just gone to PSG, and Kirk has just gone to us. And I think it was over 150 million combined for the 3. And I think it cost them 25 million for the 3.
Yeah.
So that goes to show what type of a businessman Richard Hughes is. And years ago, we had players in our books like Shea Ojo and Ben Woodburn who were just there for years and years and years and years. And you kept hearing about, oh, he's the next big thing. He's the next big thing. I actually think Shea Ojo only got off our books 2 seasons ago, believe it or not. And I think he's been there since I was about 15. So that's like 18 years ago, nearly. So it shows how the models change. We're picking up youngsters who've got great ability where, you might not make it at Liverpool, but if you don't, we'll make a fee on you, which is just brilliant business acumen. Like you've just said, we brought in £200 million, and how many appearances were in that 200 million? 15.
Oh, yes.
Bad Diaz, Nunes, obviously, but the likes of Morton, Doak, I'm not going to say Kelleher, obviously, because he did play a fair bit, but typically if you did have a number 2 without Ali's injury record, that's another 20 million for a player who doesn't really play. So when you look at the money coming in for the amount of minutes that have actually gone, even the likes of Jack Clark when he went to Salzburg and now Bajcetic, we probably get a fee. It's great to know that we've got an eye on all these great youngsters who could become the next great thing. And if they don't, we're not afraid to sell them and make good money. And the other thing is we have put buybacks on all these lads. So we have obviously got faith that these lads could potentially make it. And if they do, we're in a primed best position to bring all these lads back if they do hit the ground running. So it's as good as you can get in terms of business, I don't think there's a better model out there than ours at the minute, to be honest. So, sorry, Dickie.
Yeah, but I love the fact that some people can do that and they can say, do you know what, I made a mistake. So well done you, JK, because lots of people just go, no, I never said it in the first place. So you're man enough to say, do you know what, he's doing okay now, and I'm glad he is, because that means
we'd have another stream if I admitted all the stuff I get wrong sometimes, lads.
Fair enough. We have come to the end of the show, lads. So I do want to say a huge thank you to Kev and to JK for joining us on tonight's stream. I will say in the pipeline, hopefully for Saturday evening, we have a Newcastle preview show with Richie. So please tune in for that. And because of the game on Monday, obviously we're not going to be doing a stream at the same time. So I would imagine we're going to do it Tuesday next week. And then we can obviously round up what's happened in the Newcastle game. Hopefully 3 glorious points for LFC and keep us on this new role in the new season. And see, and Ekitike and Wirtz and Salah and Chiesa can all score, and then we'll be happy, won't we? So, but until then, have a good week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the LFC Total Red Football Podcast. As I say every week, you can like and subscribe on YouTube. You can follow us on TikTok, or you can listen to the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts from. So please tune in for future episodes. And until then, have a good week, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Join us next time for more LFC Total Red Football Podcast.